Hello again, everybody. I'm HenryT, and it's been a while since we've been here with us together. I had two back procedures. Wow, what an experience. And mom and dad went to heaven in that period of time. But I'm a brand new guy. I had to learn how to walk again, which is a great experience. But I'm making a comeback. There's a whole lot left, a lot of mileage left in old HenryT. And I'm going to make a comeback and I'm going to do it statewide. As long as I have that feeling, that compassion, that for the business. It's really a passion that I've had for this business for a long time. You know, when you're doing something and you're doing it well and you feel like, gee, I can even do better. And other guys come along and they get their awards and say, gee, if I was still in the hunt, I would be in the fight for that award. I can do better work than that guy. Well, you got to prove it, but you got to be in the fire, in the arena, and put the uniform on so you can prove it. Well, today there's a lot on the line, and today I've got a lot to prove, not only to you, but a lot to myself. And I thank the good Lord for giving me an opportunity to get back in the fire, to get back in the hunt. And so I think, who do I start with the replay or the comeback, if you will? And I thought, and I said, gee, there's only one guy that knows what I've done. We've done so much together, not only on the local scene, but on the international scene. I've been his biggest fan, believe me. I watched him at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway compete many times in his arena. And you think, wow, how many families out there around the world own 11 checkered flags? One. And how many reporters have seen all those checkered flags? And I give one to my good buddy here, because with one lap to go at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, I thought he was, man, they got cheap shotted, let's put it that way, by a famous race driver that I will not mention today unless my guest wants to. But I watched this guy play football, high school football, watched him at New Mexico military, and kept track of him when he was at the University of Kansas. You already know what I'm talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the HenryT Show, the famous Rick Gallis. Rick, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, Henry. It's good to be back with you.
Man, how about that for an introduction, huh?
That was pretty good. I'm not sure I deserved any of that, but I appreciate it.
Boy, you were a scat back for Bill Gentry. I read about you every Saturday morning in the Journal. You and all your buddies, Sullivan and Bill O'Neill and Terry Stone and the Highland Hornets. You were the epitome of high school football back in those days. Let's go back to those days under the leadership of the great Bill Gentry. What was that like?
Well, Coach Gentry, there was a love-hate situation there. He was a very, very extremely tough coach. But when it was all said and done, he's one of the biggest factors in my entire life. He was a great man, and he loved to coach football. And it was a very special time for me to be able to compete with him and all my teammates.
Wow, well, I'll never forget those teams. I want to go even further back than that. you grew up in a terrific family with great leadership. We hear the great name Hickam Gallus, and I met your mom on many occasions, met every member of your family, and all of them treated me so special. And I met most of them on the lawn of Howard Johnson's motel in
Yeah.
Indianapolis, Indiana, on 16th Street. They're all there together. Through the years, I met one here, one there, one everywhere. But I'll never forget, I get there and I am a lost little puppy, little HenryT from Albuquerque, in this humongous place, no motel rooms anywhere within maybe 100 miles. I show up, and your father, Hickam, he he overheard my conversation with you, and I guess you guys had a little conversation. I went from roomless to the best room in the whole motel, and suddenly HenryT was not lost anymore. You and your dad got me a room at Howard Johnson's, and I just kicked back and enjoyed a big steak and all of your family. I'll never forget. That was the first time I had been to the Indy 500. You can't recall that. You were too busy, but I did get a room thanks to you.
That's great. I'm glad we were able to help you.
Amazing night. Let's go back again. I was going to ask you a question about your leadership with your dad and mom and all your family and your brothers and sisters. What kind of leadership and parenting did you have when you were growing up?
Well, it was, it was always positive. But dad was a tough father. He expected me to to go forward and to do things the right way, do them in an honest way. And he was a very special person. And he was more than my father. He was my friend. And my whole family was like that. And my wife Tina has contributed an immensely amount of time and effort into this thing. So family is everything to me, because that when things get tough, that's really the only ones that are there for you. So my dad, I could go on and on. The biggest thing is I miss him terribly, but he was a very special person.
Yeah, and I was going to say, every time I see you, I see Tina. You guys are inseparable and have been every day since I've met you. You've accomplished so much because of the family leadership, but you've shared it all with them. And I guess directly, you've accomplished a lot. And today I give you the license to toot your horn just a little bit. You're known internationally for your racing accomplishments. I remember when you first started out and reading about you out in the desert, jumping around in that automobile, whatever they were called, winning races. You got hooked on racing early on. Do you mind sharing the beginning of your racing career?
Henry, it goes back to I think it was 1974 Ontario 500 that Bobby Unser invited me to. I'd never been to a race in my life. I hadn't even been to Speedway Park in Albuquerque. And I went out there, and Bobby, I believe he won the race. But I walked away from that. I met Paul Newman. I met Roger Penske. I met all of these people that I didn't really know how famous they were at that time. James Garner, all these people. And I came back and I told Tina, I said, this is something we got to do. Let's get involved in this thing. And that's the first time I ever met Bobby. I met him at a Chamber of Commerce meeting in Albuquerque, and he invited me to the 500 in Ontario. And And when I saw that, I just knew I had to be involved. And so that started everything for us. And I started out by going to the 75 Indy 500, which he won. And I got to meet Roger Penske. Roger invited me to come to several other races and watch and see what was going on. In the meantime, my brother-in-law Larry called me and said, "Let's go off-road racing." Well, I'd never raced a car in my life. I played football and other sports, but never got involved in racing. So we bought a two-seat buggy and went to the Baja 500 and competed in actually it was the Mint 400, the first one, and then the second race was the 500. And I'll never forget Parnelli Jones. He was in the car, he came over to the car that we were just getting ready to leave. And he looked at me and he said, "Do you know what you're doing?" And I said, "Parnelli, I have no idea what we're doing." And I said, "But we're going to go race." And he said, "Well, you're probably going to die. Do you know that?" And I said, "No, I hope not." But I didn't realize that it was, he said, 500 miles in Mexico is a big deal, Rick. He said, "I'll be there if you need me." And we took off. 19 hours later, we showed up back. We finished the race. And we were over the time limit, so we didn't place. But it was an experience that really started everything. And it was a fantastic day. I was with my brother-in-law Larry Friday. He's the one that I rode with, and he's gone now. But he was a wonderful person.
Wow, what a start. I'll never forget, I'm going to retouch on the high school football, but days I'll never forget. And I'll never forget those uniforms, navy blue, trimmed in gold, with the crossbones on top. How did all that happen? Where did those crossbones come from?
Well, Coach Gentry, we had a pretty good football team that year, and we knew that we'd all started ever since we were sophomores, most of us. And we went to Plainview, Texas, and played Plainview, Texas, and which was I think a 5A school, and we won. We won. And Coach Gentry, on the way back on the bus, he said, "We're gonna award the crossbone and helmet to a couple of players." Unfortunately, I was one of them, and that's how the skull and crossbones started. And you had to earn it. You had to have a good play or a good game, and then he would give you this decal to put on your helmet. And that was back in the days when they didn't do things like that. Now, Michigan and all these other schools have this stuff on their helmet. Coach Gentry was the one that started all that, and it made us obviously feel really well. So that was a special year. Unfortunately, the championship game was followed President Kennedy being killed, and so it took a little bit of the luster away for what we tried. But I think, if I'm not correct or mistaken, I think that we shut out all but two of the teams that year. Our defense did, and it was a pretty good football team and a lot of really good players who worked really, really hard. And Coach Gentry, Bobby Gibbs, Coach Miller, all those guys, they made us work hard. The more we won, the more they wanted us to work. So I'll never forget that as long as I live. The contribution they made to our lives by the way they coached us.
And what a competitor all of you guys were. I mean, just to have the mindset, we're not going to let that team score. Wow. And to accomplish the mission and to win a state championship, my goodness. You went from there to New Mexico Military Institute and then on to play with the great Bobby Douglas at the University of Kansas. Take us through there quickly.
Well, I went to the Institute, and my brother had gone there, and they had recruited me pretty hard. And I thought that it would be, my grades weren't the greatest back then, and it was an opportunity for me to go get my grades better and to compete. Coach, we had Coach Wilson Knapp was there, and Wayne Garris was there, and I spent 2 years at the Institute. I never thought I would ever go to the Institute. It changed my whole life because I'd never been as disciplined as I should have been, and it added something to my life. But we had a good football team. We beat some really, really good people, and I learned a lot, and it was an experience I'll never forget as long as I live. I still support them. They just won a national championship a couple of years back. Actually, the quarterback for the Aggies was the one who led them. But I'm very proud of that school, and I support it monetarily very well. And I'll never forget my experience with them.
Wow.
As far as Kansas,
go ahead.
As far as Kansas, there was a coach by the name of Jack Mitchell, who back then was a very famous coach, and he was not at the end of his career. And he saw me in a game in Texas, and flew me out there, and really made it a special event for me to come see the school. And I was just blown away. And Coach Mitchell was very special. He had me out to dinner with his family. And so I came back and I told my dad, I said, Dad, the university hasn't recruited me, and I don't blame them because they had their needs and I didn't fit into it. So they didn't recruit me really hard. Because my dad played there and my grandfather, they kind of just thought I was going to go there. And I said, I would really like to go to Kansas if I could. And my dad, being the kind of he is, he said, it's your decision. You're the one that has to go do what you have to do. So go get them. And that's what happened. Unfortunately, I played in one game. They redshirted me, but I was able to play in one game against Texas Tech, and I made 3 tackles. So I was really proud of it. But after that year, Coach Mitchell was fired, and they brought in a guy by the name Pepper Rogers, who actually did a really great job at Kansas. And he and I just didn't see eye to eye. And I'd met my wife, and that was the end of my football career.
Well, those are the only eyes you needed to see, eye to eye with Tina. And you've been inseparable ever since. And even in competition in the dramatic races at Indy, she's right by your side in that commandership that you guys built there. You got little Al on the headsets, and you got family here and there. What a crew. What a team you had there. You won many of the pit stop competitions. It was like another extension of your family, the kind of crew that you put together. Do you mind touching on that?
No, I mean, it was, the Indy 500. The first time I went there as Roger's guest, I walked out on the front straightaway, and there were 500,000 people there. And I lost my breath. I couldn't even hardly breathe. It was so unbelievable, the magnitude of this event. And I said, what would it be like just to qualify for this event? And at that point, I was about 3 years away from doing that. And Roger kind of took me under his arm, and he invited me to most of the races. And so I spent a whole season under his tutelage, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And, the desire was one thing, but the money was another one. And it was very, very expensive. And our company was not in a position to support us. So we had to set up a marketing company to go out and market ourselves. And that's when we decided to start in Super V's, which was a smaller type of car. And Roger told me, he said, go win at the lower level and then move up to another level and win there and then come to Indy. And that was the best advice I ever got. So our first year with Al Jr. And Dick Ferguson, actually, we won that series. We won the championship. And then the next year we went to Can-Am, which we raced against Danny Sullivan and a lot of really good racers. Jeff Brabham was one of them. And we were able to win that championship. So we had, before we went to Indianapolis, we had 2 championships under our belt. So when we showed up in '83, you know, we were prepared to go racing.
Wow, what a story. Well, I was in the track with you, and I have 19 Indy 500 races under my reporter's belt. Nobody can say that. In any of the big market reporters can't even say that. Nobody can say they saw as many checkered flags in the very fortunate HenryT. I watched the youngsters win all but one. I didn't see Bobby's first, but I saw the others. And saw you and Little Al get yours. And what an experience. I'll never forget it. But I'm so happy I had it. And not knowing where I was the first time that you and your dad accommodated me, to being the most experienced reporter, to go there. I knew all the back roads and front roads and hideouts. I even had a caravan by you and Al and Bobby early in the morning. We had to get up really early, got a police escort to the track. Man, HenryT was big time then. And you recall those great experiences, I'm sure.
Yes, I do. They were tough years and they were good years. And but to win the championship, which we won, and to win Indy, I'll never forget. My wife and I got in the car with Al and Shelley to drive around the track after the win, and I hyperventilated and almost passed out. I was so excited. To be cheered on by 500,000 people for winning the biggest race in the world was an incredible experience.
Well, if you don't mind, I'm going to give you that other checkered flag that I think Mr. Fittipaldi inadvertently won. I'll say it nicely. I was in turn 4, and I had it right in front of me, and I was ticked off because I'm a big friend of yours and Little Al's all my life. But he had room, in my opinion. He didn't need to nick your back wheel and send you guys into the wall. But that's neither here nor there. I compliment Little Al for getting out and giving it that. But I really wonder what was going through his mind and in his heart. What were you doing that time?
Well, first of all, he didn't really mean that deal, clapping. He just that was kind of a way for him to express his terrible emotions right then. I was proud of him for that. I thought it was a classy act. But I don't really blame Emerson Fittipaldi personally. First of all, he was a very, very great race car driver, and actually we became friends. But more than that, Al stuck his wheel in there too. It was both of them that were trying to win. And like Al said, he said, Rick, you can't imagine the emotion I was feeling to realize that I might have been able to win the Indy 500. And then all of a sudden it was taken away from me. And I said, well, I didn't have a whole lot to say to him because I was about as disappointed as he was. But we both made up our minds that we were going to go back there and win that race. That was a goal that we had. And fortunately, we were able to do it.
And you did against Scott Goodyear in the closest race in the history of the Indianapolis 500. Ladies and gentlemen, stay right there. We're going to take a little break. We'll come back with more of the famous Rick Gallis show in 1 minute. Stay right there. Hello again, I'm HenryT. Welcome back to the HenryT show, and welcome back to my comeback. And today I start my comeback with a close friend For many years, you know him so well. His name, Rick Gallis. Man, he's been a football star, racing star. Everything he and his family ever touched, in my opinion, turned to gold. Refresh my opinion on Emerson. I take back everything I said that might have offended him and his family, because you guys are all competitors out there. Everybody wants to win. But I had a hard time doing this for Emerson as he drove by, believe me, because I love you guys so much. And I know how much it means to all of you. Were there tears shed on that night with you and Tina?
I don't know if there were tears. You know, the one thing that Bobby always told me is that you got to learn to lose as well as learn to win. And he said there's going to be some really ups and downs. And I just made up my mind. You know, I was very extremely disappointed. Don't get me wrong, but we still finished second, and we almost won the Indy 500. And so it just gave us more impetus to come back and do it again, you know, to be able to be competitive. And so I think it helped our race team. We came back and, you know, a year later, I think we won the championship or something like that. I don't remember the years, but and then winning the kart championship was really a big deal because we were able to, you know, be the best over like 20 races, not just one. And then we were able to follow that up with an IndyCar win in '92. And so it was a great deal. But I'll tell you what meant the most to me was my team, Owen Snyder and Alan Mertens and my whole group of guys. When I was fortunate enough, thanks a lot to you, to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, they all came to my ceremony, and I that was about 5 years after we had quit racing or whatever. And that meant more to me really than anything that we ever had in racing, was to see those guys again. And I follow all their careers. And that was a really special group of young men and women. And, you know, I look back at that and, you know, when you mentioned the pit stop contest, we won it 9 times, not just once, but 9 times. And that was their deal. They practiced every day at the shop here in Albuquerque. And I was just so proud of them for that. And what a great bunch of guys.
Wow. Are you still in contact with most of them?
We talk every once in a while. I don't see him as much as I'd like to. Ziggy, you know, Paul Harkus, you know, and Owen, and I see Alan Mertens lives here in Albuquerque, and I get a chance to talk to him every once in a while. Not as much as I'd like to, but they're busy. You know, most of them are still racing, and we just, but we never forget what we had. It was pretty special.
You know, your relationship with Roger Penske, I was so proud of from a distance. And because of you, every year I would go back to the track, he would call me Henry. I said, Roger Penske remembers me and knows my name. But he was so respectful of you, and he treated you with respect. You guys had a great relationship, and maybe even to this day, you and Roger Penske. Do you mind talking about that?
No, Roger's the epitome of a competitor. He, you know, he wants to win, but he always does it in a class way, and he always wants to promote the sport and do what's right. And for me to be able to learn from him, and for him, you know, Bobby had a lot to do with that. Bobby Unser, which I must say, I going back, you know, he was my idol. I love Bobby and his family, and Al Senior. They were all very special people, and we would have never had any success if it hadn't been for Bobby and introducing us to Roger Penske and showing us the way. Bobby wasn't easy on us. He would tell us when we were screwed up, and you know, but he had a lot of bad things to say about us, and very few good things, but the good things really mattered, and he was doing it because he wanted to help us. So those people, I met some tremendous people, influential people, and that, you know, presidents of companies and things that I was very, very fortunate. And Chevrolet back then was our engine sponsor, and that was just normal with what our business here in town. So there were a lot of good things that happened because of that.
You know, I think how fortunate I was to be able to go back and report on all of you guys. And nobody has seen more checkered flags come back to their hometown than HenryT. I mean, I saw all of the others, I saw yours, and what a treasure that these eyes have witnessed back there. And I know how famous they all are. The Unzers, of course, they're now in heaven. And I know how respected and famous you are when you go back on 16th Street in Indianapolis, Indiana. Rick Ellis signing autographs, Little Al. And wow, what a scene for me to see all of that. As a reporter, you guys got me so fired up on every race. It's a tough chore to go back there and report that race, but you guys helped me along, and you were always so accessible to HenryT. Now's my chance to say in front of God and everybody, thank you to you and your buddies for being so good to me.
Well, you were good to us, Henry. We never went to a race where you didn't give us complete support. That meant a lot to our guys, because a lot of times some of the reporters would dwell on the negative versus the positive, and you were always very, very positive. And of course, you know, I know that getting into the Hall of Fame, that you were a big part of that, and I will never forget what you did for our team and our family. But more important is that we have a saying, and it's at our dealership too, that nobody's bigger than the team. Everybody's important, and not one single person is bigger than the team. And I'd have to say that Al Jr. Probably magnified that saying more than any other person. He was a tremendous team leader. He's had some personal problems, but he's worked through them. And we couldn't have had the success we had without Al Jr. and the Unser family. I'm sad that they're not here anymore. You know, Al's not here. Al Sr. and Bobby passed away. But we never in my heart will I forget what they did, not only for Gallus Racing, but for the city of Albuquerque and the state of New Mexico. I just hope that they will continue to be recognized for that.
I'm sure you have a museum in your den of racing souvenirs everywhere. I don't even want to ask you where you keep your beloved checkered flag, and but I hope it's in a safe place.
Well, I never got a checkered flag, but
really?
Al got that, which was fine. That's who deserved it. But I did get the owner's trophy, and that sits in my den. I don't really have a place right now for all of our trophies, but there's a lot of them, Henry. We won a lot of races, and there's a couple of them that are very, very special. And the two of them, one of them is in our suite at the basketball arena. And it's a picture of the championship ring, and then there's another one, a picture of the championship trophy with our name on it. And those are very special. And I'm a big supporter of UNM, and I want to say that I think we've got a great new football coach. I'm very excited about Bronco. I called him, and we're going to have lunch together. And I think we have a great basketball team, and Gallus Chevrolet is supporting those. I want people to know we're going to support that program as much as we can, because we really believe in what the university has done. So, and believe it or not, a lot of the coaches back then came to our races. They would bring, some of their coaches and stuff. And so it was kind of a nice partnership. And even though I went to Kansas, my love is still the University of New Mexico football program and basketball.
If you don't mind, Liz, since you talked about your support so much there, I love driving by your new building, your dealership there at Candelaria and University. And I always see these families going in and out of there, buying Chevys left and right. And your connection with New Mexico is really incomparable. People feel like you're the family dealership. Do you mind elaborating on the highlights of your business?
Well, fortunately, we have a lot of really good dealers in Albuquerque, which is important because they maintain a very high standard. But we've been there a long time, Henry. 1908, my grandfather started that thing. He sold the first 15 cars in the state of New Mexico, and we have some really, really great people that work with us. And Eddie Espinosa is our general manager. My son Jamie is the dealer now. I'm the major stockholder, and we have a really good deal. Chevrolet's been awfully good to us. We used to have like 9 or 10 dealerships, and right now we've just got one, and but we got the best one. We got the one that counts, and the people of Albuquerque have supported us throughout the years, and that was probably one of the biggest things that I got excited about is when we did win Indy. The city of Albuquerque threw a parade for us, and there were 35,000 people there at that parade. And I'll never forget the feeling I had because we love Albuquerque and we love the state of New Mexico. This is where we live, and the support we got was tremendous.
Well, as we come close to the end of our interview today, I want to highlight the relationship of you and your beautiful wife, Tina, and your family. There was a movie out not long ago called The Family Man. They should put that title on you, The Family Man. Where they are, you are. When you're successful, they're successful, and vice versa. Your family, what have they meant to you?
Well, I can't even answer that without maybe getting a tear in my eye. But family's everything. When things are tough is when your family shows their merit. And my wife and I have been married, 57 years, and we've been through a lot together. We've had a lot of people fortunately not with us anymore, but we've never lost the desire to run our business in a first-class way and in a way that we can go to sleep at night and be proud of all the accomplishments that our people have made. And so it's a really special deal. And we have some really special people at the dealership. I just had our annual Christmas party at noon just before Christmas. And to see those mechanics and to see the salesmen there with smiles on their faces, that's what it's all about, are the people. If we went out and did something great, it wouldn't mean half as much as if our people didn't get enjoyment out of it themselves. And that's what we like, Tina and I both. We get more pleasure out of seeing our people proud of what we're doing than anything else.
And ladies and gentlemen, one of these days, make it a point, drive down to the convention center, park close, or go underneath it, probably go underneath, that's a better way, and walk down the Hall of Fame. It's a hallway, very lighted, beautiful hallway, and down that hallway are all the inductees in the New Mexico Sports Hall of Fame. And look at all those great names, all of the youngsters, Rick Gallis, Hickam Gallis, all the football players, Don Perkins, the basketball stars of yesteryear, on and on. What a hallway of fame. And to see you and Dad right next to each other on that famous wall down that hallway is something special to see. What does that mean to you, Rick?
Well, my dad had always been my idol. I mean, he played football back when it was pretty tough. It's tough now. Don't get me wrong, but back then he was an offensive tackle and defensive tackle, and he was 6'2" and weighed about 240, which back then was huge. Now, the tight ends are that big, but he loved the Lobos, and my grandfather played there too. There's a picture of my grandfather and my dad both in there with their teams. So there's a strong legacy there, and I'm proud of the family. And as the older I get, the more I appreciate it. And my children, Corey and Cindy and Tim and all of my family, that's what's important to me now. They're very special to us. So I appreciate everything you've done, particularly in promoting the state of New Mexico in motorsports and all of the other sports. And people need to recognize what a great job you've done in the past also.
Thank you, Rick. I appreciate that. Now, Ice Tight, when you see you and Dad together in those beautiful photographs down that hallway, impulsively, when you look up and see you and Dad together on that wall, how does it touch you?
Well, it kind of makes me feel like, what am I doing up here next to my dad? Because he was really something special. But the fact that we're together, we're going to be together through eternity. And that's something very, very special. That's probably the most special thing that I got out of the Hall of Fame, besides all of the great people that are in it, was that I got to, be next to my dad.
What do you want the community to say about you? I guess that question that you ask or is asked of many famous people, many people who are well known have contributed. What God, it's I know what it is, but asking you, what is your legacy to our great state, to your fans around the world?
Well, I don't really look at it like they're my fans, because they're just regular people that have enjoyed what we've done. Um, I guess I guess the special thing for me is looking how much they've enjoyed our success. And there's a lot of people that didn't enjoy our success, our competitors. But for someone to come up to me that I've never met in my life and shake my hand and say, I saw your race team, Al Unser Jr., win the Indy 500. It's really a special thing. And so it's the fans and the people that have supported us all these years. That's what. And really, the other thing is, and I keep bringing up the dealership, but it's pretty exciting when a guy comes up to you. He's probably my age or a little bit older, and said, "My family's bought 8 cars from you guys, and we still have the first one that my son bought," and things like that. That just say, "Okay, it's all of this stuff is worth it. All of the strikes and all of the hardships that our family has gone through. It's our customers and our fans that really mean the most to us." And again, I'm going to bring up the University of New Mexico. To see that crowd at the basketball games, and to see how that's what New Mexico is all about. We don't have the money that Texas has got, or Miami, or any of this stuff, but I'll tell you, our fans are great, and we look forward to that game tonight at Colorado Springs, Fort Collins. And I keep bringing up New Mexico because we're all in this together. We're all in it to try to be successful.
Yeah. Well, I know it took you more today and longer than I promised. But when I talk to you, my imagination just goes haywire. But I'm going to give it another shot. HenryT's in the pilot seat again. I'm making a comeback, and today you're officially with me on my first day back in my comeback, Rick. So
Henry,
welcome.
I'm your biggest fan. I'm your biggest fan, and you mean a lot to me. You haven't been just a one-off guy that comes and hangs around us when we win. You were there when we didn't win, and you were always so very supportive. And New Mexico and Albuquerque is very lucky to have you.
Thank
And I'm
you.
glad you're feeling better.
Amen. Well, yeah, I saw you one day. I was a long way from you. You were in Tina around at Tenawan playing golf.
Yeah.
I said, man, that guy truly is an athlete. You hit the heck out of that driver that day. You love your leisure time and athletics as well. I could tell and how much you were enjoying that golf match.
Well, I'm not very good, but I enjoyed it, and I still do. I really like playing the game. My son-in-law is a scratch player, so I have to get a lot of strokes from him.
Wow. How much do you play?
Oh, I play maybe once a month, maybe twice a month. But when it's warmer, I'll play, maybe once a week. I just enjoy the game, have a lot of fun.
What else do you do in your leisure time today?
Well, my biggest thing is I ride cutting horses. I'm a professional cutting horse rider, and we've done that since we quit racing. I've been in the sport for almost 20 years. I have some wonderful trainer. I have a wonderful trainer, and we have some great horses. And we just competed in the Futurity in Fort Worth, which is the biggest futurity in the world. There's 735 entrants, and we made it in the top 50. And didn't quite make it to the finals, but I'm sure my trainer just went over his $1 million figure this year in earnings. And he's a guy from California, and that's where we keep our horses. But that's our biggest thing right now.
I was asked by a close friend and said, ask him about AJ Foyt, Henry. What kind of guy is AJ? What kind of relationship do they have? Because, he's rough and he's gruff and he's tough and all of that. And he's still out there telling people what to do. What's your relationship with AJ?
Well, let me just put it this way. First of all, he's a great champion. And he may be rough and tough, but he's still one of the most decent people I've ever met in my life. When my dad passed away, the first phone call I was from AJ. And he said, I loved your dad, and he was a very, very special person, and we're all going to miss him. And that just shows you the character of that man. And, all of these guys, Mario Andretti, the Andretti family, all of our competitors, they're really great people. And I know people are going to say, why don't you say something bad about them? And I said, I can't, because I just admire their competitiveness, and it was an honor to compete against them. And I don't know many of the new drivers. I haven't been back to Indy since 2007, just because I'm trying to do other things. But obviously I follow it very closely. And the drivers, they're pretty special people. I don't know if anyone knows what it's like, how they can feel about driving into turn one at over 235 miles an hour. But to watch him do that is an incredible thing.
Wow. Race day morning, the drama out there. The drivers are getting hooked up. They're getting seated in the car, strapping down, helmets on, everything. And then Jim Neighbors comes with the song, Back Home in Indiana. And somebody sings the national anthem. That moment right there, if you could just capture it, it's one of the most dramatic moments on earth.
I got a funny saying is the first time I went out there and saw that happen as a competitor. In other words, I had a car in the race. I looked at my wife and I said, I want my mama. I can't tell you the feeling we had being there. It was just an amazing thing to see those cars and to see all those people. and they were all standing up, and 500,000 people. If you don't think that's a lot, count to 500,000. It was an amazing, and it still is. It still is, and we were just very fortunate to be a part of it.
Amen. Well, I think we're just about taking care of 30 minutes plus.
Okay.
But, I thank you for every second of this interview today, Rick. You mean the world to me. Your family does too. But I'm going to end with the most precious question that you'll be asked today. Your relationship with your beautiful lady, Tina. How would you capsulize that as we end our show today?
Well, she's my partner, first of all, in everything we do. And we've been together a long time. We've raised our kids. We've been through some tough times and some good times. But we stuck together, and we're very proud of our relationship. And I love her very much. I hope she loves me. But I think when you go through life, I'm just fortunate to have somebody by my side, good and bad, that was always there, and that's what I've had with her.
Well, I'm going to give you a report card right now. You're going to fill it out. On my comeback show, how did I do, Rick?
I thought you did great, Henry. I was proud of you, and I'm glad to see you back. I think it's going to be great.
Amen. I'm going to circle the state, the who's who of New Mexico. Plus, I promise you, I'm going to get the famous Roger Penske on my show, and I'll let you know when he's there.
I'd like that.
Okay?
Okay,
Have a
man.
great Happy New Year, buddy, and thank you from the bottom of my heart for being my guest today.
Okay, Henry, thank you for having me.
Take care.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, how's that? Did you enjoy that? I'm emotional because this is special for HenryT to talk to my longtime friend, Rick Gallus, the Scat Pack at Highland High, who played for the famous Bill Gentry. Man, I remember like yesterday, and their names were in the paper, and followed his career the whole way and had the chance to be at Indianapolis with Rick. Man, he's taught me a lot. But we're going to do some wonderful things on this comeback show and shows. Stick with me. Man, I feel so much better having a couple of back procedures. Ooh, man. But that was a catalyst. And I'll be back for a lot in the near future. And it's going to be good. It's going to be exciting. Thank you. Have a great day. I'd like to thank my producer, Jimmy Tran, for always being there for me. Thank you for always being there for me. So look forward to it. We're going to enjoy this ride together. I'm HenryT. God bless you all. Thank you for being with me here today on HenryT Live. Wow, or maybe we change the name. HTV, how's that? I don't know. We'll think of something. And you can help me. If you want to help me rename the show, do that. Hey, I'm taking suggestions. Just I don't even know my Zoom number, but we'll figure it out and give it to you. Have a great day. Take care. Thank you. Take care.